Wednesday night, what are we at? February 25th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. How's it going out there today? We missed the winter storm. I know some people in the New England area got close to 24 inches of snow. Louisville wouldn't know what to do with 24 inches of snow. We only got 6 inches on our last storm. How's everybody doing tonight? What is going on? George Harrison would have been his 83rd birthday today. 83.
Yeah, Polly said that. Hi, Sticker family, and happy birthday, George. John H., good evening, Sticker family.
How you doing, Polly? How you doing, John?
Larry said, good evening, Frank and family. And then Uncle Paul's Beatles Pop Playhouse.
Yeah, our Uncle
happy
Paul's
birthday,
in the house.
George, and hello, Frank and Travis.
All right. Well, Uncle Paul is in the house.
And then Dave Evans, hey, Frank and Sticker family, good
Dave
evening.
Evans, got your payment on the, you know what, the shootout I'll talk about here in a second.
The Quiet Beatles collector, Thomas Crook, said hello, Frank.
How you doing, Thomas Crook?
T-shirt said hello to me,
Polly.
you and me. And then, hey guys, from Woofy Baby.
Woofy Baby is in the house.
All right, we you can go.
So here's my George Harrison that I could find today. Got the George Harrison Cloud 9 from 1987. Got the hit song Got My Mind Set on You, which you can hear him playing in the background in the Beatles 64 documentary that's on Disney Plus. And today in a Ripley's auction that went on at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I won a Connie's personal copy of Cloud 9 that's signed real big with a big autograph from George Harrison. I won 8 other lots, but I'll talk about it in a second here. So the last time I went to Ripley's in Indianapolis, the secretary gave me a hint that you should always make your final bids before the auction starts in case there's internet problems, because the auction keeps going whether there's internet problems or not. And today about 3:10, 3:15, it went down for 10 minutes. So I won 9 auctions when the internet was down. So thanks for giving me that tip.
North Carolina Vinyl.
How you doing, Arthur?
Said good evening, Frank and Travis. Get the poster yesterday, and today I framed it. Thanks, Frank. Love it.
Becoming Led Zeppelin poster. I bet it'll look good. Are you going to put it in your background of your videos? Your YouTube videos? So there's Connie DeNavi, her book called The Image Maker, Shattering Rock and Roll's Glass Ceiling. And I think she lived about 91. And this Ripley's did the 3rd part of her estate today. And I won the George Harrison signed album, Cloud 9 from 1987. I won promo photos of when Connie DeNavi represented Billy J. Kramer and Jerry and the Pacemakers. And she represented 10cc in the 70s. And I got press kit and promo photos coming from 10cc. I got a promo photos and negatives of Chris Jagger, which is Mick Jagger's younger brother. There's my action figure from 2008 of Mick Jagger. He has a younger brother, Chris, that tried to make it in the music business. I got a huge collection of photos, press clippings, and photos of the Spanky and the Gang on the Ed Sullivan Show and press kits. So it's a huge collection of Spanky and the Gang. Their big hit was Sunday Will Never Be the Same. And Dick Clark, I got a signed photo coming from Dick Clark to one of Connie's secretaries. And that's the main things I want in the auction this afternoon.
North Carolina vinyl picker said yes, Frank, and shouted you out on my show today.
All right, thanks a lot.
And then Danny Goldstein said hi, sticker family.
How you doing, Danny Goldstein?
Brad Parnell said good evening, long time no see.
Yeah, I'll talk about Brad Parnell here in a second.
And then Mr. Beatles Pro, hey everybody.
How you doing, Tom? Good to have you back. So the Connie DeNave collection, that's from the last time, that's a promo. It says Connie DeNave on the bottom of the Dave Clark 5. And there's Connie DeNave with Man for Man. That's original photo there that was in her file cabinet. There is Leslie Gore and Connie and Ed Sullivan. When Connie was on, when Leslie Gore was on the Ed Sullivan Show when she was 16, singing "It's My Party," and that's got the famous photographer Popsy on the back. This was when Connie DeNave represented the Yardbirds, and I got Jim McCarty to sign that for me at the Chicago Fest last year, Fest for Beatle fans. And lastly, this was in Connie's personal scrapbook, original Cosmo photographers, New York City, of John and Yoko and Connie at the 1975 Grammys when John Lennon came out and Paul Simon, and they presented the award to the Song of the Year, which was Olivia Newton-John, Honestly I Love You, and Art Garfunkel came up and accepted the award for Olivia Newton-John. And Greg Theo, John Lennon's got his Elvis button on and his Winston O'Boogie button on. Or he's got an Elvis neck. No, it looks like a corsage or something.
Dan from Florida said hi, Frank, received this Pink Floyd poster today. Thank you so much.
All right, Dan from Florida. All right, let's talk about George Harrison a second. Put those over there. Here is what I can find today. Most of these are foreign import singles. What is Life? What is Life? And Apple Scruffs. This is from, looks like France. It says produced by George Harrison and Phil Spector. Let's see if it says France on top of the label. It does not. Can't figure that one out. We got a USA picture sleeve of Bangladesh. And the flip side of that is Deep Blue. We have a picture sleeve of Dark Horse from France. And I Don't Care Anymore. The what? Belgium. So the What is Life is a Belgium. My son figured that out. So on the Dark Horse picture sleeve, they're advertising Lennon's Walls and Bridges, Paul McCartney's Band on the Run, and Ringo's Goodnight Vienna on the back. So that's pretty cool. And then we have this is a USA of This Is Love picture sleeve. Flip side was Breath Away from Heaven. We have a Wake Up My Love. This looks like a Italy picture sleeve. The flip side of Wake Up My Love is a Grease instrumental.
Wolfie Baby wants to know what's on the flip side of the Bangladesh pick sleeve.
Bangladesh. That I should know. Didn't I say Deep Blue? Deep Blue.
Well, I meant the picture sleeve. What was on the back of that picture sleeve?
Picture sleeve on the back is the newspaper talking about the Bangladesh, all the problems that they're having. That's all I know. Why he did the concert for Bangladesh. USA, got my mind set on you, and the big flip side is lay his head. 1987, the last #1 song from any solo Beatle.
Wolfie Baby said thanks. Everybody give a like out there, please. I appreciate it.
A promo for the Porky's movie, I Didn't Want to Do It. Written by Bob Dylan, Porky's Revenge, white label promo. And 2 more George Harrisons that I found today. 2 all these years ago. This one is from, I don't know. You'd have to look in the dead wax on that. All these years ago. Writing on the Wall, and another all those years ago picture sleeve from all these foreign imports. I can't figure them out. It's probably German.
W-E.
That's just the that's the Warner Brothers label.
I thought you said to look in the dead wax. That's why I looked in the dead wax.
Well, I meant around the perimeter, it should say somewhere. That's my George Harrison picture sleeve tribute to George today on his 83rd birthday. Greg Theo says there's some sort of unreleased song I guess Danny is releasing for George Harrison. Everybody knows about that. And I got 2 George Harrison DVD box sets, concert for Bangladesh. Mazzy says this is a pretty good print on this one here from the early 2000s. And George Harrison's The Dark Horse years, 1976 and 1992, the CD and DVD box set. Even has a super SA CD of Live in Japan. There was 5.1 surround sound. So that's my George Harrison tribute. Any questions about George Harrison, what I just showed? Some notes here, and then we're going to talk about the Man on the Run that I went to with Brad Parnell. So, me and Mr. Mayo did a collector's anonymous video, live stream today at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And he had Robert P., who we met at the Fest for Beatle fans in New York last year. How you doing, Robert? He's a couple years younger than me. I'm 72, he's 69. He had Doc on there, he had 4D Man, and he even had George music for all 4 seasons, who sometimes he's in our chat here. But they had sound problems, and they were the internet wasn't working very good at that time. And then he didn't even get, Joe Mayo didn't get comments the last 45 minutes, and he finally ended the live stream. But today must not be the best day for the internet.
Greg wants to know, do you have the Bangladesh vinyl box, Frank?
I do not have the Bangladesh vinyl box. I sold that probably last year. So I went to Man on the Run movie at the Tinseltown here in Louisville.
Robert S., not P, wasn't it?
Robert S. Okay, sorry.
Tom Beatles Pro.
So I went on to the Man on the Run documentary at the Tinseltown on Sunday with Brad Parnell. And it was, I would say it was 90% full. I got the tickets right when they announced the second day showing. So I had the best seats in the whole place, about the 9th row up in the center. And Couple notes on the documentary. I thought it was amazing, fantastic, emotional experience. They're sure some of the footage was grainy, but there was a lot of rare footage. And the director, I guess there is a 2.5 hour print, or it got cut down to 2 hours, but the original print cut was 2.5 hours. And some people are even saying it was 4 hours to begin with. We'll see if they ever release that. I know that physical media, they don't release those things much anymore. It's going to be on Amazon Prime starting this Friday. And the album, The Yellow Taxi, from Third Man Records, I think is getting released on Friday. I ordered 2 of them. Hopefully I'll have that for Saturday. I should, since UPS is right here in town, the main UPS in the world. So a couple notes about the Man on the Run documentary. There was no mention of Jane Asher of helping Paul get the farm that they showed in Scotland at the beginning of the documentary. They didn't mention Jane Asher at all. It was all about Linda. And Brad Parnell brought up, they showed the Mary had a little lamb, which Henry McCullough was upset that he had to wear. They all had to dress up. There were 7 different versions of that. But the reason Mary had a little lamb came out was a reaction to all the flack he got for doing Give Ireland Back to the Irish, and they didn't talk about that in the documentary. So Brad Parnell brought that up to me when we left. But there was a lot of things, though, that you never thought would be in a documentary about Paul McCartney, supposedly the clues that he was dead, and that the Life magazine people went to England or to Scotland, and Paul threw some water at him and told him to get the hell out of there, and then he went in and cleaned up and came out and apologized and took pictures for Life magazine. I'm trying to get that Life magazine with the flap, because that's a highly collectible item, especially because of that documentary now. But they talked about him getting Paul footage from him getting busted in Japan, a lot of footage I've never seen before, and John Lennon's murder. And they got a dance from the James Paul McCartney. I don't think Paul wanted that. He was kind of embarrassed about it, but the director pushed for it. So the director seemed like he got away with what he wanted in the movies, in the documentary. So thumbs up to Paul letting Morgan Neville do what he wanted to do. That made the documentary that much better. And
So Danny Goldstein said, great point. I thought they should have mentioned Give Ireland Back to the Irish.
Yeah, because Lennon was doing his Luck of the Irish and political songs, but they should have mentioned that. But I'm being nitpicky. It was a great documentary.
And then Brad said, I like the creative animations in between scenes, kind of reminisce of Terry Gilliam.
From Monty Python, Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
So if you didn't go to those 2 showings on the big screen, you missed out. But you can see it on Amazon Prime starting Friday, so I recommend you watching it. But I don't think it'll be quite as impactful on the TV. And that was most of my notes on Man on the Run, unless you got some other. But there was a lot of songs and footage from Ram and Band on the Run. They seem to focus on those 2 albums more than anything else. And they didn't really talk about Venus and Mars at all, which I thought was strange. But they talked about most of the rest of Paul McCartney and Wings' career.
Danny said, I wanted to see it again on Sunday, but we had 22 inches of snow, so it was canceled.
Yeah, I understand.
And then Dan from Florida said, took my boys to see The Man on the Run. And then he said, in the mid-'80s, I picked up a Concert for Bangladesh full-size movie theater poster. I think it was $20. He met Pete Best the same day.
Wow. One time I was in Florida for a convention. It was just like a convention for, they had a lot of different celebrities there. It wasn't just music, but they had some vinyl collector dealers there. And Pete Best was one of the people, the celebrities there, and it was $25. This was like 20 years ago to get his autograph. And I didn't get in line for it, but that's when Pete started, after that 1982 Complete Beatles, and he was in the OUI magazine, a big interview, and then he got money from 3 album set he put out of the Decca tapes. So that was when Pete Best finally changed his mind. He didn't want to talk about the Beatles because there was 18 years where Pete Best didn't want to talk about the Beatles at all, but he changed his tune.
Before we get into that, Brad said not much of anything of wildlife or London town either, but we did hear from pretty much all the Wings members, so that was good.
Yeah, they had interviews at the time with all the members that were in Wings, and Brad and I didn't stick around for the 12-minute interview with Paul now with the director. Well, you can see it on YouTube. But I was focusing so much on seeing Paul at the way he was at his peak there with Wings. It'd be a stark contrast to see Paul at 83 talking about it. So I left during the last song, Arrow Through Me.
I'm guessing that's what he said. He said it's very honest. I really appreciated that.
It's the first Beatles-related documentary, I think, that's not been censored and is really honest, yes.
And then Dan said, Pete signed my cabin poster, no charge. I did buy his book, Beatle, and he signed that too. And then John H. said, Pete Best also made a lot from the anthology series. Yeah,
that was 95, 96, but he started making money in 82, I think. That's when he started realizing he better quit
complaining,
ignoring about getting kicked out of the Beatles. So here's my 5 audio, because this has been Paul McCartney and Wings week for me. The 5 audiophile pressings, the top 5 that I listened to this in the last 7 days. I got number 5 is the McCartney's first album, UK. This is a -2, so it's a second pressing. Number 4 is Band on the Run, UK pressing. Pretty sure this is a -2. I need to search out and focus on getting -1s on all these pressings, because that's what I have in the last 2 I have here. So Red Rose Speedway, Little Dragon, single Pigeon. I'm not saying it right. Pigeon. What's the bird called?
Oh, pigeon.
Pigeon. The medley is really good on here, Lazy Dynamite, and I love the song Little Lamb Dragonfly. But they did show footage from Big Barn Ben and My Love in the documentary. So this is different than the USA. The booklet is as loose in the middle. Wings Greatest, I'm up to number 3. This is a -1, first pressing of Wings Greatest from 1978. And the best way to hear silly love songs, and the Mulligan tire on this one is a banger. It's a hot stamper, Mulligan tire. Little Patricia from Little Beatles Corner has a pressing of this. I think she'll vouch for me. But that was the biggest song in England at the time. It outsold She Loves You. And then later on, the Christmas song from, I'm not coming up with, there was a Christmas song that outdid it. I'm sure you guys know out in the chat. Number 2 is Band on the Run. They really featured that in the documentary. This is a second press, -2. I had a -1 at one time, but maybe Dave Evans has it now. Band on the Run. What album? No, there is no. One song.
Band-Aid, Do They Know It's Christmas?
Yeah, Band-Aid, Do They Know It's Christmas? I have
that
a
was
sealed,
John H. that came up with.
I have a sealed 12-inch in the other room on that. And one song got taken out of here. In the USA, they have a Hell on Wheels, and it's not on the UK pressing. My number one Paul McCartney album is my first press of Ram -1, 1971, laminated cover. Talk about a hot stamper. This, how Rolling Stone criticized and knocked this album down when it came out, is beyond me. What an album. That's my top 5 audiophile McCartney pressings I listened to this week.
Dave Evans said, Frank, that is the one I have. Spectacular.
Yeah.
We knew that.
Yep. So I did a shootout today of Abbey Roads. So I have a 1969 first pressing. It was an import. It was discounted at $4.95. And I have a 1970 -2, -1 that has Her Majesty listed on the label on side 2. And I have a 1973 French contract when Abbey Road was closed for renovations. And the winner of the shootout is this near mint 1970 Abbey Road. The bass, the harmonies, everything on it is just perfect. This must be the pressing that Michael Fremer plays for at vinyl, at those audio conventions he goes to, and he says people will have tears in their eyes when he plays side 2 of Abbey Road for them. And this is already sold to Dave Evans about an hour ago. Got the original Apple recording inner sleeve. It is the pressing of Abbey Road, if you want to hear it in its full glory. And we talked about this to my former bosses at the grocery store today. We're talking about how the Beatles ended on top. 26 to 29 years old, Abbey Road. But Let It Be came out after this, but this was the last album they recorded. So they're pretty much frozen in time at 28 years old forever because they ended their career with Abbey Road.
John H., I love the Abbey Road Odeon Black Triangle CD from Japan.
Yeah, that's what Andrew from Polygram Auction, he has that up ranked as, I think, the second best sounding Abbey Road.
And then Danny said from the documentary, I think the most important moment in the documentary was that they showed the "My only plan is growing up" comment from Paul's 1970 press release. The film then showed how he did that by raising a great family.
Yeah. Danny, do you have an original press release of the McCartney album that they were giving away there? You see it in the footage in the film where at Apple Studios, there on the front stairs, there's a lady giving out press releases. Do you have an original of that?
He says he doesn't.
That's got to be worth quite a bit of money. The originals were only in the promo copies in England that came out in 1970. And you know, the McCartney album was released before Let It Be, and it made the other 3 Beatles pretty upset.
He said he just lost out on one a couple weeks ago, so I guess he was trying to get a hold of one.
Better one for some money. A couple other notes, and I'll start showing. I got a lot of things to show today. Somebody did a video, I don't know if it's Benny Lee or something, on YouTube, where he's having this argument with a guy that said that Linkin Park will be remembered longer than the Beatles. And the guy from Saturday Night Live, the Cuban guy, Marcelo, and Benny Lee were sticking up for the Beatles, and they said there's no way that that the Beatles are going to be forgotten before Linkin Park. Martha, my dear, yesterday there was an alternative piano driven mix featuring Paul's original Take One vocal. You need to check that out on YouTube. It's an excellent version of Martha, my dear. Let's start showing some
Brad
stuff.
said he don't even remember Linkin Park today. I do, but that's just because my generation.
Here's a couple other.
What you want to show me?
We're going to show the Mersey beat next. There's a couple other Connie DeNabe photos I made from the original negatives. The Rolling Stones at Kennedy Airport doing their Nanker faces, all 5 of them. That's probably the only photo where all 5 of them were doing it. The photo from 68 at a Yardbirds in New York press conference where you got a Keith Ralph, the lead singer, Andy Warhol, and a Jimmy Page all together there. And there's a photo from the Connie DeNabe of a Hullabaloo show with Frankie and Annette and Freddie doing the Freddie and the Dreamers. All right. Here is this Mersey beat. I know that Danny Goldstein has, I guess, the first Mersey beat that had John Lennon on the cover. This is a September 20th of 1962. What I like about this is, give me those notes there. This is a picture from September 4th of 1962 at Liverpool Speck Airport. And in the new Mark Lewison documentary, Evolver 62, he goes to the back of the airport and he shows that exact spot where that photo was taken. And the Beatles are getting on the plane to go to London to go to EMI Studios to record Love Me Do and How Do You Do It the same day this photo was taken. And they didn't want to, how do you do, they didn't want it released, so they didn't put their whole effort into it. But notice here on the bottom, it says NEM's record store, which is Brian Epstein's record store, has already taken orders for the single Love Me Do and P.S. I Love You. But in this photo, this is right after Ringo joined the group, probably the first week. Ringo still has his haircut from Roy Storm. Uh-oh, the phone's ringing. Roy Storm and the Hurricanes. He's got the white hair still on the sides. And George Harrison still has a black eye from the first time the Beatles played with Ringo Starr, and one of the Pete Best fans knocked him in the eye, gave him a black eye. But then, since the Beatles didn't release How Do You Do It, this is a Mersey beat from March of 1963, and it says there that NEM Enterprises now has available Jerry and the Pacemakers, How Do You Do It? And they have a chart here on the back. Merseyside tops, and the #1 song that week was in Liverpool was How Do You Do It by Jerry and the Pacemakers. And the #2 song was Please Please Me by the Beatles.
And he said this was in the new Mark Lewison documentary?
Yes. And there's a picture of Jerry Marsden here somewhere.
And then, James Farley?
There's a picture of Jerry Marsden from Jerry and the Pacemakers. And there's a picture of advertising the Beatles are going to play Friday night at the Cavern Club.
You didn't see it, but thank you, Farley, for shouting out on the birthday. I appreciate it. We had a good one Sunday. Danny said, is the 62 complete or just the cover?
No, it's just the cover. Cover and a frame. I wish it was complete. This 63 is complete, but it's kind of rough. But this one, the front, is in real good shape, but it's only the front. I don't know what's on the back of it. I haven't taken it out of the frame yet, but I noticed it wasn't the whole issue. Show me that George Harrison's mom thing. Here's somebody on eBay put up this, and they said it was a hand-typed letter from George Harrison's sister. But I did my research. Show me the book too. I did my research because she says in the letter, "Dear Debbie," where's Debbie's picture? I don't know. I had Debbie's picture right by there somewhere. You don't see that little photo? Oh, it's in here.
I was gonna say, I don't have it.
There, I think Mikey Arugula got part of Debbie's collection when he got the Paramount 1964 lot. But that's a picture of Debbie. Her stuff keeps going up on eBay. But there is a, mark out her, there's a letter from, I figured out that Warrington from England was not from George Harrison's sister, but it was from his mother. And the type letters, it's dated on top, October 10th of 1967. She says, "Dear Debbie," she hand types this, "sorry for the delay. I have been on a visit to Louise in Illinois." That was my first clue that it was a mother. "For the 2 weeks and 3 days, then 4 days in Canada with my brother and his family. While I was over there, I was able to connect a few people by phone and met a few also." Debbie was a president of a Beatles fan club in Connecticut. And then Louise says, "I would have liked to have met all of you and who write to me, but I would need my own plane and a lot more time. I have just returned from Brian's memorial service, which was last Tuesday. So another week has come and gone, and I have hardly begun on my mail. Best wishes, and please excuse typewritten letter. Love, Louise Harrison." I looked up her autograph. That is George Harrison's mom's autograph. That's the way she does the H. But I think that's pretty cool. The week, or pretty historic, the week after Brian Epstein's funeral in, I guess it would have been in London. This is pretty good shape here with the Dust Jacket 1964 book. Cellar full of noise. It says it's by Brian Epstein, but a little trivia question. Who actually wrote this book? See, the first person to come up with that. So she had a little photo of the Beatles. Debbie did a September 64 when they were at the Boston press conference.
Holly Hewitt said Derek Taylor.
Derek Taylor wrote this book. One of the few Beatle books that's still worth money.
Farley said, "I sat next to Louise Harrison at the Beatle Fest."
You're talking about the sister. Right. They're both Louise. The mother and the daughter. All right, that's my thing on that.
Kiss book or the Beatles thing?
Show me the Kiss book. So the antique Americans.
That's right there.
Yeah. This antique mall has been a 10 for 10 that opened here in Louisville. I got to go on dealer's day and got choice of the first things, but on Saturday when it was open to the public, they had an hour wait at the lines, and the parking lot was so full they were parking across the street and walking across busy Bardstown Road. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is really.
That's my dealer's tag there.
Louise Cardwell Harrison.
That's the daughter that lived in Illinois. The first time that a Beatle was in America was the fall of '63 when George Harrison went to visit his sister in Benton, Illinois. So that's a Kiss book of the scrapbook of the first 1 through 66 trading cards. So I thought that was pretty cool from 1978. Show me the Shea Stadium photos.
Oh, the photo?
Yeah, you got it. The tickets, I meant. And then those photos. Mikey Arugula wants these. These are those original surveys from the Washington WWDC, which is Carol James. He was the DJ, the first DJ to play I Want to Hold Your Hand in the United States. That's not the first DJ to play a Beatles single. They played From Me to You and Please Please Me in '63 in a few towns. But Carol James was the first one to play a song that exploded.
Greg said he met his sister at Capitol
So
Records,
the number
Hollywood.
1 song on March 14th was I Want to Hold Your Hand, She Loves You was number 2, and Please Please Me was number 5. Twist and Shout was number 7.
At the Walk of Fame, George's birthday, at his star birthday party, she was pretty cool, Frank.
All right, so that. So these, this was a heavy auction. I showed it the last one. Thanks a lot for Mikey Arugula last Saturday for your birthday bash, and we had Mean Mr. Mayo and Gus Lopez and Polly from T-Shirt Express, and we had Beetle Barbara was on with all her Beetle dresses. So this was an auction that I had to get a hold of, and I took Mikey's advice. It was sitting at $250 for the whole week until the last 5 seconds, and I made a bid of $1,055 with 2 seconds to go, and somebody else made a $1,000 bid, so I won it. These are tickets, 3/4 size tickets to see the Beatles at Shea Stadium, August 15th, 1963. Seats 1 and 2 at the 40K box level. These tickets cost $565.
Astro Gia said, "Hi guys, sorry it's been a while."
How you doing, Astro? You're Gabby's buddy.
I hope all's well and safe with the snow. We're good here, but everybody else, I heard there's a lot out there.
Yeah, I haven't heard from Mikey in a while, but it's got to be a mess. Some other notes. Chaperone turned 28 last week. Show me her album. So happy birthday, Chaperone. She's back on the charts again in England and the UK. Her album, Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, is number 41 in the UK, and the United States is 42. So it hasn't stopped yet. It's about a 2-year-old album. That's a sealed single for Good Luck Babe that has 2 billion streams on Spotify. And Chaperone, I got this from Uncle Paul, the little 3-inch single from Target. Sabrina Carpenter. Got Sabrina Carpenter. Maybe I'll have to give this to Uncle Paul, unless he probably already has it. A VIP kit from her tour last year for this. Sweet. I'm not going to come up with the title of her tour, but it was something to do with Sweet. I guess that's the name of her album.
Astro Gia said, "Did you see, guys, Arugula shoveling snow for Mayo?"
Wow.
He said, "Yes, Mikey was hysterical." And then Astro said, "Happy birthday, George and Chapel." And then
Thanks.
Uncle Paul says he does not have this. And
All right, Uncle Paul.
we finally have something. So
well, we got something to give you there, Uncle Paul.
And then Brad Parnell.
Maybe you'll have to send me something in return.
Said we did get 17 inches of snow, but that was 32 years ago. It's all melted now. Talking about here.
All right.
And then Danny Goldstein. Okay, now we need a Beatles for sale and Mr. Moonlight.
Mr. Moonlight, I'm gonna get Sticker Kid to learn to hum a couple lines of Beatles for Sale. Beatles for Sale.
What's that one? That one's different there. Is that
That's the 1970 import from UK that's got the factory sample not for sale, but this is a -1. And I have the 1968 -1 tube cut of Beatles for sale in the original inner sleeve. On the black and yellow Parlophone label was sold in the UK, subject to resale price conditions. See price list. In late 1968, they stopped putting that on the record labels.
Astro wanted to know if you had any promos for the new Man on the Run.
I have the 2 yellow taxi vinyls coming on Friday or Saturday. I'll be showing them on. I don't have any other Man on the Run. Beatles for Liverpool box set. Got this in again. This was from England. I bought this from England. I got here in the UPS in 5 days. But the hinge is still attached. And it's got all the original inserts for world records in there. That's a guarantee. That's a little envelope from world records. Got some stereo equipment you could buy. They put in the box set. And the other things you could buy from world records at the time.
Uncle Paul said he ordered 2 taxi yellow too.
That sold out in 2 hours. It was a limit of 4. I should have bought 4, but I didn't. So the picture's not inverted on the second album, but they're all laminated covers. They all have HTM and the dead wax. That's the pressing you want. Harry T. Moss cut this. Way to go, Harry.
Dan from Florida said I contacted, Trafalgar, and they did not print any Man on the Run posters.
Well.
And then Astro Yellow and Man Amazon Orange is also sold out.
Wow.
And then Farley said I bought that for $89. It's the best box set, talking about the Liverpool.
Oh, yeah. The Polygram Auctions, Andrew Milton's ranks this as the top 5 Beatle box sets of all time.
And Whoopi Baby said, wow, those inserts are cool. First time I'm seeing those. Talking about.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever had the inserts. So I got this in. This is my Horzoo 1973 Beatles Magical Mystery Tour. You've seen that. But I just got this today. 1977. Still in the loose baggy shrink from Gem Records, still sealed. And it originally sold for discounted in a store for $6.29 in 1977, which would have been a lot of money back then. But I don't think the Gem Records knew they were selling the best audiophile stereo pressing that exists in the world for the Beatles. I don't think they had any idea in 77 that's what they were selling. So that's pretty amazing. And the last one I sold on this for eBay went to Tom Port's Better Records out in California. So Tom Port hasn't given up on me yet.
Farley said it saved me from chasing down all those rare mixes when they was able to get the Liverpool box set.
Yeah.
Wolfie Baby Frank, do you know if there were any Marcona presses of the Magical Mystery Tour in 1973? How do you say that name?
Do you know if there were the French contract pressings of Magical Mystery Tour in 73? Not that I'm aware of. I thought the Horzoo in Germany was the first all-true stereo pressing. I don't think England and France pressed Magical Mystery Tour until the late 70s, and England. So this is my butcher cover you saw that I showed on the Mikey birthday bash that I peeled last Saturday for 3 hours. And I have it taped up to protect it. Let's see if I can get this out.
Farley said that Magical Mystery Tour is the one I have. Jim Records was an importer in from South Plainfield, New Jersey.
Yep. So this came out in excellent condition. Took me 3 hours. There's just a little flaw there in that top corner. And this is up on my STICKERMANIA 2853 eBay store. I sent a couple offers out of $1,900, $19.99. And there's the trunk slick that came off pretty much in one piece. I showed pictures on the last episode where during the peel.
Danny said, I knew the M from Jim. He owned an art gallery in Millburn, New Jersey.
All right.
Yeah,
let's put the butcher away.
Let's say, yeah.
Got this, is pretty historic. 2 of these sold today. Just the flexi disc only. Perry Cox sold one and somebody else sold one for $300. But this is the original flyer from WSAI, Good Guys in Cincinnati. That Dusty Rhodes mortgaged his home to afford to bring the Beatles to Cincinnati, the Gardens. They were supposed to play twice, but they couldn't fit. They only played once at the Cincinnati Gardens before 11,000 people, and the temperature was 110 degrees. And that's a flexi disc that sold for $300. But I got the original mailer. It came in from Cincinnati, postage paid, and it went to somebody in Cincinnati. It's faded away, the address. It's even got the original cardboard support still in there. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty historic, I'd say. It is for me because I'm close to Cincinnati.
Farley said...
So I went to a funeral last Thursday, and we had to go down the 75, the interstate, and when we got close to the Reading Road exit where I knew the Cincinnati Gardens used to be, my mind was imagining the Beatles and their limo being rushed from Lunken Airport to the Cincinnati Gardens. They didn't even go to the airport in downtown Cincinnati. It was so chaotic. They just went down and did this press conference in a dressing room underneath the Coliseum, underneath the Gardens. And then when the concert was over, they went back to Lunken Airport and flew to New York because they didn't even want to go to the hotel because all the fans, it was just crazy there in Cincinnati when they got there.
Farley said, Frank, what clothes steamer worked well with butchers? He don't use a steamer.
I use a tea kettle and a hot towel.
Yeah.
Tea kettle to get the trunk slick off. And then it has another layer of paper and glue on the butcher cover, and then I loosen it up with a hot towel and use my thumb to get it all off in little pieces.
Dave Evans said, Frank, you are correct. The French contract pressings, there never was one pressed on the Magical Mystery Tour.
Thank you.
And then Winston with Greg. Thank you, Bob Eubanks, for bringing Beatles to Hollywood Bowl in 1964.
Thanks to Dusty Rhodes from WSAI of bringing the Beatles to Cincinnati.
And then Astro said, Frank.
August 27th of 1964, about right before I think they flew to, right before Hollywood Bowl, I think. Maybe Hollywood Bowl was before that. Greg, correct me, what was the date of the Hollywood Bowl?
And then Astro said, Frank, sorry for the loss last week. It was a friend's mother that had passed, one of his friend's mothers that had passed.
Yes. Friend Ernie from
the
Hamilton,
one that
Ohio.
went to the California with him when he could talk the stories.
Yeah, he went to California with me to LA, and he got to see Nirvana where I didn't go to Nirvana. There were only 2 tickets, so only Ernie and Tim Hurst, who worked for Warner Brothers, went to the Nirvana show, so I missed Nirvana at the Hollywood Palladium.
Greg Field said August 23rd.
So the Hollywood Bowl was 4 days before the Cincinnati show. So this I got in at the Louisville, South Louisville Antique Toy Mall last weekend. It's a sealed 2020 box set of the Kinks Lola versus the Power Man and the Money Go Round Part 1. It's got 3 CDs and 2 7-inch singles in there and a book.
Yes, he does, Astro. Frank, do you know a famous Beetle butcher dealer named Jim Henson?
Jim Henson, yes, I got 2 handwritten. I got a handwritten note from him the other day.
His store was called Blue Jay Way Records.
He's in Florida now. Blue Jay Galleries in Florida.
He's an old Beetle Fest dealer.
I didn't ask him if he still peels West Coast butcher covers, but in my opinion, he is the premier one that figured out how to peel the West Coast butcher covers of anybody that's ever walked the planet Earth. I could never figure it out, the West Coast. It's a tough one. Only one time did I get a good peel when I was peeling. When I was peeling butcher covers for Rockaway Records, they gave me all the East Coast from the Gary Hine estate. And I peeled about 10 or 15 for them and send them back to me. And then they would give me a couple West Coast that I could practice with. They said they were putting pressure on me that I had to figure out how to do a West Coast. And I tried with the gin and the rubbing alcohol and all kinds of different concoctions but I couldn't figure it out. And one time I had a stereo from the West Coast and I steam peeled it and it came off just like a East Coast, so it must have been had the water-based glue and somehow ended up in LA.
Greg said
because the younger brother Gary Johnson says that's impossible to steam peel a West Coast butcher cover, and I said, well, that's what I did on this one.
He's talking about, I guess, the Hollywood Bowl, the Righteous Brothers, and Jackie DeShannon openers, 19,000 Screaming Mimes.
Yeah, they were at the Cincinnati Gardens also. The Righteous Brothers and the Jackie DeShannon, and the Righteous Brothers opened up for the Beatles at the February 11th Washington, D.C. Coliseum when the Chiffons couldn't show up because of all the snow. You guys down the East Coast know about all the snow. You can see why they couldn't go on a plane. They had to go on the train.
Astro said he didn't know he was still alive. He had fallen out with Mark Lapidus years ago.
Yep, I got a message from me. He had heard about me from Rockaway Records, and he had heard about me from another Beatle collector. I think he's Bald Daddy on eBay, and I can't come up with his name right now.
And then Thomas Crook said, I got my butcher cover from Blue Jays Records at the Beatle Fest back in '92, so he bought one from him.
Jim Henson, yeah.
And then Farley said, I think to peel a West Coast butcher cover, you have to use tape and peel off layers at a time.
Well, I know how to peel, get that, you know where I keep all my capital up there in the curio cabinet? Mm-hmm. I have a trunk slick I took off of West Coast butcher cover. I used shipping tape overnight. I'll show you that. What other notes? Taylor Swift's #1 on the Billboard charts in the United States with Opalite. And in England, #1 is Rain in Me by Sam Fender and Olivia Dean. Olivia Dean is really popular in the United Kingdom. You know, she won the Grammy here in the USA.
This one?
Yes. So I used shipping tape to get this off of a West Coast butcher cover. I put strips of shipping tape. You got to make sure one tape goes over another, and then you press it down overnight, and then you just carefully take it off in the morning.
So Greg said he used an alcohol mix with vodka, lots of water.
Well, I used gin, but I've seen a couple that you've done there on the West Coast, Greg. You didn't do any better than I did. They're a tough one. What else? The #1 album in the U.S. on the Billboard charts is Bad Bunny And the number one album in the UK, I said that wrong, is The Rain in Me by... Oh, the number one album in the United Kingdom is Charlie XCX with a soundtrack for Wuthering Heights. And on the album charts in the UK, Fleetwood Mac is number 3, if you can believe this week, with Don't Stop. Linkin Park, which we talked about, some people think that their legend's going to go bigger than the Beatles. They're number 13 with their singles collection. And Chapel Roan is number 41, and the Beatles are number 45 in the United Kingdom with the Blue Album 1967 to 1970. Some things that sold for some money. Show me that one book with the pink label there. Yeah, the first one. So Perry Cox sold the, which I know Danny Goldstein has one of these, the Decca pink label of My Bonnie from 1962. Perry Cox yesterday sold that for $3,348. That's Tony Sheridan and the Beat Brothers. Didn't even have Beatles on the first record released in the United States.
I was going to say, Frank, do you know if there is a third man pressing for the Wings 3 vinyl compilation or complete? Yeah, compilation. What is
Just
that?
The Man on the Run.
That came out in November.
I don't know about that. So on some other things that sold, a My Bonnie first press of the Germany pressing with the German intro, German sung intro went for $675 yesterday. I talked about the Cincinnati Flexi disc that sold. A lot of butcher covers have sold in the last 5 days, but they've been almost all West Coast. A West Coast number 5 sold for $1,900. It was a second state. And a West Coast third state peeled mono butcher cover went for $1,300 from Vinyl Museum. They're out there on the East Coast. Earlier today, a Beatles versus the Four Seasons mono sold for $1,000. And if you can believe this, Dean got a hold of me, was asking me if the Beatle Bugle Megaphone was original, and I told him it wasn't. A reproduction of that went for $168 yesterday, so I'd say somebody got ripped off there. I sold all my UK pressing except for one. I still have the White Album left for Patricia. I'm saving Little Beatles Corner. All the rest of them sold today, all my sealed ones from the 78 number 604 box set, including the shipping box and the box and the shipping box for Capitol Records. I sold everything for, I think, $1,200 earlier today. And John and Paul, I missed out on this. John and Paul negatives when they were on the Johnny Carson show. Johnny Carson took the day off, 1968. There were 4 negatives that sold earlier today on eBay for $60 to $100 of each. And I know a Photoshop where I get my negatives from the Connie DeNavi. I could have made some real good glossy photos and some extras of the John Lennon and Paul McCartney on the Tonight Show. But I messed up on that. You can't be on eBay all the time. A set of yellow submarine hangers from 1968 went for $555. And you know, I had one 2 years ago that was sealed in the original packaging that I sold for $2,000. And a 1964 tour book from the USA signed by all 4 Beatles went for $18,000 a few days ago.
So Greg said he just bought a Meet the Beatles peel over this week.
Paste over, Meet the Beatles. All right. How do you know it's a paste over? You can just tell, or you can't. Did they pick up a corner and you can see another album cover underneath it?
And then Brad Parnell said, "How can a band with only 3 top 10 singles possibly be remembered longer than a band with 34 top 10 hits?"
I don't know. It's a young generation coming up with some weird arguments.
And then let's see.
I think the Beatles have sold 300 to 400 million, and Linkin Park's only sold 79 million.
And then are those pictures from the TV screen? I'm guessing what you were talking about that you missed out on. Maybe.
They're not from the TV screen. They look like they're original negatives that somebody took in the studio there at the Tonight Show. So they got to be worth more than $60, $100 a piece. They didn't look like off of a TV screen to me.
He said corner revealed, lower half. Yeah.
What is it?
The corner was revealed, the lower half.
Yeah. So what album cover is underneath there?
And then Danny said, I don't have a pink label. I have a Pickneyville black label. I lost out on the pink label last week.
From Perry Cox? That went for $3,800?
I'm guessing.
I thought you had a promo.
Astro J. Frank, do you know when Jim Henson moved from Texas to Florida and why he moved?
A few years ago. I didn't ask him why. Yeah. He left. He was in California or Texas. I thought he was in Texas for a long time, Austin or something.
And then Brian says, I told you Sunday, when those young YouTubers start listening to the Beatles, they'll fall in love with them as much as any generation.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation. If a young person took the 38 minutes of time to quit scrolling lickety-split through a phone and watch the 38 minutes of the video on YouTube of the Beatles in Washington, D.C., February 11th, 1964, they would get it. And that's, PB Thal did a video Sunday, and one of his members on the panel said the White Album, Beatles White Album, isn't very good. There's just a lot of, he just doesn't like it. And he says there's a lot of uncompleted tracks on there. And I started arguing with him, and I had a lot of people backing me up. And I finally said, it's the bloody Beatles White Album, shut up. And he still wouldn't shut up about it. And then I finally said the Parade, the Sunday magazine, just last week ranked the Beatles White Album as the best classic rock album of all time, and he still wouldn't give in an inch. And then finally the other panelist says, I'm staying out of this argument, because everybody in the chat was backing me up. And one other thing about that, the same panelist said that he did not like Paul McCartney and Wings songs, that none of them were he said he just wouldn't even take the time to listen to them because it was after the Beatles. And people in the chat were saying, you got to listen to some Wings songs. I said, you're missing out. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. That's my rant on that.
Make sure you give a like for all the hard work he does here, y'all. We appreciate it.
All right, we got some George Harrison posters. We're going to show, put that over there. Show me that one, Supremes. I got these three on the back behind me. These are original lobby cards from the early 1965 from the Tammy Show. That's the Supremes. I have two of the Rolling Stones and one of the Beach Boys behind me taped to the wall. But these were hung. These are 8x10 lobby cards, but they're on the movie theater National Screen Service put them in this little border thing. So I guess it's pretty cool. That's why they hang. We're in the marquee in front of the movie theater.
Danny said, did you see the videos of the Squeeze doing Junior's Farm last week live on BBC?
No, but I will check that out. I like Junior's Farm a lot. It was recorded in Nashville, Tennessee.
And then Astro said, that guy is nuts. I like many Wings songs, even more than the Beatles songs. I agree, Frank.
This is the Paul McCartney and Wings week. So that's original promo poster for the Traveling Wheelberries. On the bottom it says Wheelberry Records. Got Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, and George Harrison. That's after Roy Orbison must have passed away. And we got a couple other ones. We got a great big one after this. This is a promo poster for George Harrison, The Best of Dark Horse, 1976. Pull it up a little bit. 1989 includes 3 new songs. I know Poor Little Girl was one of the new songs, and I'm not coming up with the other 2 right now. And we got a great big one that was going to be hard to show. This is a huge, must have been in the Tower Records.
Yeah, that's probably the best one.
Tower Records window thing. So you
All
got
right, so you're gonna go on that side, and we're going on this side, and we're just going to go up a little on the table like that, right there.
So that's a cool Dark Horse Records. It's got a date down there on the bottom towards you. I can't read it.
1979.
1979.
George Distribution.
I think that's about when George had just started Dark Horse Records. Maybe started in 76 when Apple Records ceased to exist. He was on Warner Brothers. Got any other questions?
So, Brad said, Wings are awesome, period. Wings had more hits than John, George, and Ringo combined. Astro said, I love that Wilburys 3 poster. I never saw that before.
Mm-hmm.
And then Winston trying to say Andrew Perry, Polygram praise for Sgt. Pepper mono vinyl box best Beatles LP. I guess he's just trying, since you always say it, that's probably why he's saying that, I guess.
The 2014 mono?
I don't know. He just
there's somebody on YouTube, a guy from Europe, that did a shootout today, and he said the 2014 is the best pressing ever of Sgt. Pepper and mono. And Mike from the in-group says that too, but I still like that 1980 pressing I had, a -1 that I got from Mazzy that came from the mono box set. I thought that sounded pretty good. This is a Wings, talking about Paul McCartney and Wings. This is a UK pressing of Getting Closer and Spin It On. That's the way the picture sleeve came out. It was die cut like that. And in England, you got the solid record label like that. So that's pretty cool. Talking about Paul McCartney and Wings.
Winston said, yeah, the 2014.
So I'm thinking that because of this week and the Man on the Run, and because time is marching on, that the Paul McCartney and Wings exhibit's going to be at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I'm thinking the value on historical Paul McCartney and Wings items is going to go up. What do you think? So the Butcher, I got this, I think Dave Evans has this, No Dice, first pressing from the United Kingdom. It's got this No Matter What's on here, and Without You. These pressings, you never heard Badfinger until you play a UK first pressing of Badfinger album. See if I can open it up and show Badfinger.
Farley said, Frank, have you ever come across that one-sided 7-inch dialogue from the film Let It Be?
Yeah, but most of them are bootlegs out there. They made thousands of bootlegs they sold at Beatle Fest in the 80s. That Let It Be dialogue, most all of them are counterfeits. So that's Badfinger. We got to see say hi to Joey Mullen a couple years ago, before he passed away. Here's some things that from that Piqua, Ohio. I found these in the garage today. I got the Savage Young Beatles. We're talking about Pete Best. This, I think, is a 66 pressing. But these things were never played. And they are in beautiful, shining like a mirror. That's what Gary Hine used to say about his near mint records. He'd say, shining like a mirror, Frank. They're shining like a mirror.
Greg says he has No Dice signed by Joey. And then Dave Evans said, fabulous album, Frank, in the Badfinger. Astro, Poor Little Girl, Cheer Down.
This is another Pete Best of the Beatles. So on this one, you got you got the Tony Sheridan tracks. And on this one, you got Pete Best solo tracks. Pete Best story. These pictures of Pete on the back. When Pete was trying to make it as a group, but couldn't quite do it. And then this is one of the first Beatle bootlegs that came out in the early 70s. The 12 original greatest hits featuring Strawberry Fields. It was on Suda Records. This is what the record label looked like. It's another record where it's shiny like a mirror. They would collect these bootlegs, but they wouldn't play them. I got a Let It Be I'll show next time. One of the first Let It Be bootlegs called the Silver Album in the other room. All came from this collection. We went to Piqua, Ohio. Now we got to go to Indianapolis in 2 days to pick up what I won in the Connie DeNave collection. And these are all I got on an online auction from Mexico. A lot of these are on my STICKERMANIA 2853 store. In Mexico, they just had a plain little paper sleeve that opened like that. They weren't too much on quality. In Mexico, the revolver is the same thing. Just got a little paper sleeve. Revolver. It's got 4 tracks on here, which are Got to Get You in My Life, Here, There, and Everywhere, Yellow Submarine, and Eleanor Rigby. This is part of that collection I bought online. This is a Japan From Me to You, and I Saw Her Standing There. And then you saw these, I think I showed, these are in the original, probably 70s reissue of Help in the original plastic sleeves from EMI Capital, Dizzy Miss Lizzy, and Yesterday. That's a weird A and B side. Yesterday on the A side and Dizzy Miss Lizzy on the B side, both on the Help UK pressings album, and Paperback Writer and Rain. And then these look like the Beatles for Sale, but they have Hard Day's Night tracks on there. This has got I Should Have Known Better, If I Fell, Tell Me Why, and I Love Her, but it's in a Beatles for Sale paper sleeve. And there's another Beatles for Sale. And this one has a Hard Day's Night, Tell Me Why, Things We Said Today, and I Love Her. And this is one, it's got Help tracks on there, but it's got a Beatles 6 cover on there. It's got Help, I Need You, Ticket to Ride, and The Night Before. These are all Mexico. Another for Help. Yesterday, It's Only Love, Act Naturally, and I've Just Seen a Face. And 2 of them on the Apple label. A Day in the Life, I Am the Walrus, Strawberry Fields Forever, and Come Together. Those are all John Lennon sung tracks on an Apple 33 record. And the last one's got 1 track from each Beatle. Yellow Submarine. Oh no, these are all 4 Ringo Starrs on this one. Yellow Submarine, Octopus's Garden, With a Little Help from My Friends, and Good Night. And I told you the other day I heard a With a Little Help from Your Friends on our music system when I was at the store cleaning up at night at the grocery store, and it did not sound like the Sgt. Pepper track I knew. It was auto-tuned to death. The young generation is going to miss out on the way the Beatles really sounded if all they hear is auto-tune that was developed in 1999. They're ruining music, I think. What do you think? What do you think out there?
Astro said, Frank, do you know that in the U.S. that Paul and the Wings was second to only Elton John?
Yeah, it says that in the documentary. The only group that outsold the Paul McCartney Wings in the 70s was Elton John. And I don't understand that. I mean, I like some of the Elton John singles, but I've never been into his albums a whole lot. I've had Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, the UK pressing, a couple times.
Brad said, would you be interested in the original Monkees DVD box sets of the show that looks like records?
I'm only interested in the Blu-ray that came out a few years ago. I've had the one that looked like records before, but the Blu-ray is so much better in quality.
People talking about their first bootlegs. Farley said the Silver album was his first bootleg, and Winston said Come Back was his first bootleg.
Yeah, I'll show the Silver Beatles Saturday night. This original bumper sticker from WHK Cincinnati, Cleveland radio station. Must have been when the Beatles played in Cleveland at Cleveland Stadium in 1966. And my story on the Cleveland Stadium, Ernie, I talked about earlier, my buddy from Hamilton, Ohio, he said, Frank, we got to go to Cleveland Stadium. They're going to have was it a concert or a football game? I can't remember, but he said this is the last one they're ever going to be at the Cleveland Stadium, and you're allowed to take souvenirs with you when you leave. So we took some hammers and tools, and we were able to tear a few seats apart.
It was a football game.
Football game?
I think that's what it was.
And people were taking the turnstiles out of there. They had all kinds of tools, and you were allowed whatever you could get apart, you were allowed to take with you that day, the last football game at the Cleveland Stadium. So that was an interesting thing that one time I did there with Ernie Mills. I think I showed about all my new arrivals except for these flashers. Beetle Ron says that these aren't that rare, but they're pretty cool, I think. The Very View, somebody got a hold of everything left at the Very View factory. This is the normal one where you see I Love Paul. And these two I thought I never had them before, where it has all four Beatles. It says the Beatles, and then it has all four. The blue one and the red one. But he says the man that got a hold of all this stuff used to go to Beatle Fest, and he'd put a whole table out of all these things he got a hold of, and he would sell them pretty cheap at a Beatle Fest.
No, Astro, we have not heard from our friends down in Mexico. Hopefully they're doing good.
Yeah, I haven't heard from them since Chicago, pretty much last August. Hopefully Angular and Carlos are doing okay. Shout out to you guys. I know that things change for you a lot in Mexico. Oh, I got a hold of this in a eBay lot. These are all jewelry from 1964. Had this many times before. The bracelet that all says NIMS Enterprises on the back, made by Randall here in the United States, 1964. And this is the, what do you call this?
Pennant.
Pennant?
Yeah.
And this is the rarest one, is the locket. Arthur Mustache, I know, was interested in this. Locket on a pennant, on the chain. All right, we out an hour today.
Shoot, it's almost 10 o'clock. You went almost an hour and a half.
Sorry, guys, I went over tonight. I got to get to the store and
the floor guy's not here tonight either.
Oh, I gotta sweep the store and clean the bathroom.
So he just streamed for 83 hours and then gotta go clean the floors. Y'all better give him a like for all the hard work he does.
All right, I've prepared for this quite a bit today. All right, thanks a lot. I'm not I was gonna see Greg the Elvis at the IMAX, and I guess they only played it here in Louisville on February 20th. So I'll have to watch it streaming, but I know when you watch those things on IMAX, like Becoming Led Zeppelin, there's just nothing to duplicate that experience. Same with Man on the Run. It wasn't in IMAX, but it was unbelievable on the big screen, and it was pretty fantastic. Thanks a lot from Louisville, Kentucky.